to Chabot College. We appreciate your attendance here this morning. My name is Dionisia Ramos. I'm the Director of PR, Marketing, and Government Relations for the Chabot Las Positas Community College District, and I'll be moderating today's forum. We're delighted to have Dr. Tina Vasconcellos with us this morning for the Chabot's President Finalist Forum. Before we formally welcome Dr. Vasconcellos to Chabot, let me take a minute to review what to expect for today's public forum. Today's forum is scheduled for 60 minutes. We have approximately 18 minutes for general questions posed by the moderator, and another 25 minutes for audience questions. The candidate will have 4 to 5 minutes to provide brief opening remarks. There are 4 general questions that have been prepared to help facilitate the discussion. I will ask each question and allow the candidate to respond. There are microphones on either end of the room. After we conclude the general question portion of the forum, audience members may line up behind the microphones to ask a question. I welcome you to start by sharing your name, your role within the district or in the community. Please limit your questions to 30 seconds and only 1 question per person. Please be courteous in your manner of asking questions. And 5 minutes before the end of the session, we will conclude audience questions and invite the candidate to provide brief closing remarks. Audience members will have the opportunity to complete feedback forms online following the forum. Links will be provided on the President's Search webpage, as well as on the QR codes that you'll find on either end of the room and in the entrance to this facility. Information on accessing the recorded forum and feedback forms will be provided via email after the forums. All surveys are anonymous. The feedback forms will be compiled and shared with the Chancellor to be included in his deliberation. We thank you again for your presence here this morning. With that, we'll begin today's forum. I'd like to now formally welcome Dr. Tina Vasconcellos to today's forum. Dr. Vasconcellos, it's our pleasure to invite you to provide a brief opening statement.
Thank you. First of all, good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. Thank you for being here this morning on this a little bit of a cloudy, sort of pollen-filled day. So I'm honored to be here this morning, and I want to thank the committee for inviting me to continue this dialogue with you, the Chabot community. Community colleges have transformative and transgenerational impact on our students, our families, and our communities. Chabot has had that impact on me and my family. I first attended Chabot when I was 17, graduated from high school, attended and had no idea basically what to do with higher education. My parents are first generation middle school students and first generation high school graduates. So I did not have the support from home in order to navigate the systems that we have, which we know are complex. So I signed up for classes. I attended classes. I was working full time. I stopped attending classes. I didn't like the teacher. I didn't like the subject. I didn't know what I was doing. So I ended up on dismissal. I ended up in the dean's office, who happened to be a parent of a friend of my brother's. So that was embarrassing. But it was the first time that I had a connection with the college. And so by him pulling me in, if you will, and grounding me and following me, because you know once you're on dismissal, it takes quite some time to get off dismissal. But having that connection with him over, like I said, a period of time was really powerful for me. He helped me navigate the system. He helped educate me on what I needed to do, what I didn't need to do. He connected me with counselors that could support me and help me figure out what major. I changed my major 3 times before I finally settled on what I wanted to do. So as far as being a first generation college student and graduate, I'm a lot like a lot of the students that we have, and even a lot of you potentially in our community this morning. After I I should share. So I ran into him years later after I got my doctorate degree, and this person became a board member with you all after serving as dean. But I was able to thank him, and what I thanked him for was seeing me and seeing my potential and supporting me in my growth. So after I graduated, my mom attended the PACE program, and she graduated, and she had been working as a single parent. She had been working in jobs that were sort of, lower income, but within a couple years, she tripled her income after attending the PACE program. It wasn't necessarily what she learned in the PACE program, but it was the boost in self-esteem and the impact on her and her ability to go forward and to really sort of excel. She ended up in IT, and having a really successful career before she retired, and then she opened a Curves in retirement. So in addition to that, my family is huge. So my grandmother had 12 brothers and sisters on my mom's side. We have many, many family and friends that have attended Chabot and also Las Positas, but especially Chabot in this area. So just to share a little bit about the impact that the college has had on me and my family. My master's degree is in counseling psychology, which provides me a foundation in what used to be called multicultural, right? We don't use that word anymore, but basically being able to integrate one's culture, race, ethnicity, ways of being, religion, sexual orientation, neurodiversity, all of that, basically a holistic lens, bringing that into the room, into the therapy room with individuals. My PhD focused on community college leadership from a national perspective. I attended Colorado State University, and it was an amazing program. We studied law, education law, of course, curriculum, lots of research and different methodologies, assessment, and so forth, and leadership, of course. And so those two provide me a grounding in my work today as an instructor, when I was teaching psychology, as a counselor, when I was an EOPS counselor, and also as an administrator for the past 16 years. So I've been a community college educator for more than 25 years. Yeah, no talking about my age. So I'm committed to working towards racial and social justice, but have been way beyond that. So when I got my master's degree, I started working in the AIDS community because for me, that was a racial and social justice issue where folks were not receiving equal care, equal attention, equal support, potentially given the populations that were impacted, especially early on, by AIDS and HIV. So for me, doing this work, bringing it into the education system and continuing doing racial and social justice work has been something that I've done ever since I was faculty, throughout being an administrator, and to this day, I assume for the rest of my life. What we do really, really impacts our students. What we do impacts their communities and their families and allows them to, as Bell Hooks talks about, transgress class, race, sexual oppression, misogyny, and so forth. We are here to educate, but we have so much more impact than just teaching what happens in the classroom, right? And the degrees that we, actually are conferring this week and the next week, potentially. So for the past 7 years, I've worked as an executive leader. I'm currently Associate Vice Chancellor of Education Services. I oversee instruction and student services for the district with 4 community colleges. Prior to that, I was Vice President of Student Services, and also in my portfolio had instruction with dual enrollment for the college and non-credit. And then as Dean of Academic and Student Success, which was both instruction, student services, and then I was also a division dean in liberal arts and career education for a couple of years. So I have a really broad depth and breadth of experience of the student journey and coming in and through and sort of moving on in the college. For the past, during a couple of years during the pandemic, I also served as acting vice president of administrative services And so my responsibility with that lens, in addition to VPSS, was to help us move the college online. As you guys know, that was a big feat, and then to move it back. And so I created a work group and had a team of cross-sectional and folks across the college representing different constituency groups helping me with that.
My apologies for the interruption. I just want to do a time check that we're over the 5-minute mark,
sorry.
so I'll invite you to wrap up
I'll
your
wrap it
intro
up.
comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, in closing, I lead with authenticity, integrity, humor, which is really important. We have really tough jobs. I have a high degree of integrity that I bring to my work. I am innovative, I support innovation, I support creativity, and anything that leads to academic excellence and essentially meeting the students' needs. Every decision I make is grounded in our students, and the students first. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the question portion of the forum, and I'll start with the first question. The president of Chabot College is expected to be the voice of the institution's mission, values, concerns, and aspirations. What do you think are key components of successful internal and external communication strategies? How would you prioritize different constituencies?
Okay, so you were going to do one question at a time. Is that what it was?
If at any point you want me to repeat it,
Yeah, I will. Thanks. So basically the question overall, and I'm really visual, just so you all know, if I don't see it, it's really hard for me. But so communication. So communication, as I said this in the first level interview, it's one of the hardest things that we do as administrators. It's, you know, as many times as we try to communicate, there's always somebody that's not going to sort of receive the information. So for me, communication is really important, that we're open as leaders, especially as a president and executive leaders and the executive team, that we're open to listening, that we communicate, and that we listen for meaning so that we can actually understand what's happening for the person or the groups of people. That, you know, I think you said something about how would I prioritize constituency members. I wouldn't necessarily prioritize them because for me, all voices are really important. Whether you're a classified professional, whether you're a faculty, an administrator, student, might prioritize students, but everybody's voice is important. I need to hear from you. I can't do this alone. I can't do any job alone. And while I have a lot of skills and I bring a lot of things, I still need your voice. I need your help. I need your insight. This would be a new community for me now, coming back into this community, having served many, many years ago as a part-time faculty. So what are the cultural norms, sort of learning that from you, and what's working great, and where we can actually improve and work together to move forward. What am I missing?
I can restate the question
Yeah,
if you'd
thanks.
like. The president of Chabot College is expected to be the voice of the institution's mission, values, concerns, and aspirations. What do you think are the key components of successful internal and external communication strategies, and how would you prioritize different constituencies?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So communication for me around the mission and the priorities and sharing what's working great here. I think one of the things that's important to do is internally being accessible, you know, doing town halls, doing meet and greets, I know this is kind of corny, but I used to do for years Tea with Tina when I was vice president, and just do open office hours. And people would drop in. You know, even though I was VPSS, I had more faculty, instructional faculty coming in and hanging out and talking about what they were doing in their world and their purview than I did even my folks, as I saw my folks a lot, right? So people would come by and hang out, and students would also stop by. So I think being accessible is really important for communication. I think official communications is important, creating newsletters, having websites, and so forth. I also, you know, for me, internal is still board, and so for me, having board reports through the chancellor and providing information so the board knows what we're doing and the work that we're doing here to support the students in the community is really important. Also, external community, having, one of the things is, you know, I'm not sure the structure here so much currently with external partners, but having a roundtable, not just with K-12, but bringing in all different constituency members, career education is really important to our community, and partnering with workforce and bringing folks in like that. So I think that communication is hard, like I said, but is the most critical thing that we do as leaders. And to be accessible, to be open, transparent, and to bring people in and hear all voices, and then sort of sharing also the good things about Chabot is really important. Thank you.
Recognizing that we all have some limitations, what characteristics or qualities might hamper or enhance your effectiveness as president? It is said that we learn from our mistakes. Can you mention an honest mistake that taught you an important lesson and how you confronted the consequences of that mistake?
Okay, I might need you to repeat that.
Yeah, no problem. Do you want me to repeat it now?
Sure.
Yeah. Recognizing that we all have some limitations, what characteristics or qualities might hamper or enhance your effectiveness as president? It is said that we learn from our mistakes. So can you mention an honest mistake that taught you an important lesson and how you confronted the consequences of that mistake?
Thank you. So one thing that hinders me is that my visual learning style is the highest possible. There's not a lot of anything else. So on auditory, it's horrible. So that's something that I bring, that I acknowledge, that I own, that if I can't see it, I really struggle. And so, for years, I've learned that learning styles are important, obviously teaching in the classroom, but also for us and how we show up. So that's one limitation. I'm not sure about another limitation, but that is one that I know that I carry all the time. The last part. See, it's real. Sorry.
It is said that we learn from our mistakes.
Okay, got it. Thanks. Okay, so one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was when I was a dean. I was a young dean. Not young necessarily, but dean, young. And new dean. How about that? So it was when we were going through reduction. So if you guys were in the room, if you've been with us for quite some time, during the 2009-10, we had budget reductions from the state. It impacted our categorical programs gravely. In DSPS, for instance, it was a 39% cut, I believe. So when I came in as a new dean, I inherited a program that was $400,000 overspent every year. So I had that as a new dean. So I was trying to figure that out. And then the reduction happened with another 39% on top of that. So I found myself with staff that I needed to figure out what to do with. I found myself in a position of having to figure out how to do this. And me, so I'm trained as a therapist, right? My humanistic side, sort of, I want to communicate, I want to sort of pull people in, all that. My president at the time told me not to. My president at the time thought that the best route was to sort of keep it close, with personnel issues, and obviously we can't share everything, right? But in this situation, that president wanted me to keep that sort of close to my chest. So what happened was the biggest mistake, I rectified it by what happened, I guess, is that students ended up at the board, talking, of course, about how horrible I was, and that I was cutting in their staff and they weren't going to get services and so forth. The staff didn't know what to do. I was too new. I was about a year into this, I guess, as a dean. So we were building relationships, building team across. And so they didn't have the full trust in me to know where I was coming from, or if it was me actually doing this, or if I was, following directions, right? So immediately as I saw things falling apart, I went to the president and said, I need to recommend that we do something different. I need to try something, and I need to bring people in. And so the president was okay with that, so I immediately started having meetings. I did town halls, little, mini town halls with all the students and talked to them. I assured them that their services and that their needs would be met. I also talked to staff, and I said that I would go through a process to make sure that while we might have to move people around, the intention was to not get rid of anybody. I was able to move 2 people off, somebody retired, and nobody was laid off. But what I learned in that process goes back to the first question, really. Communication is key, right? And I come from a place like that's who I am, that's my stance. And I think I say this a lot in my district now. We are not very humane in how we treat people, meaning we don't treat each other very well oftentimes. We often sort of think the worst of each other and don't assume that, students are first in everybody's stance and why they're here. I think that, coming in from a closed position is never successful from what I've seen, because I've seen it happen with other people too. But it absolutely changed. I learned a lot, and I absolutely changed from then on how I communicated. If I've gone through issues where I've had to, shift priorities within a program, reconsolidate, whatever it was, I always brought people in first.
Thank you. We're on question 3 of 4. How do you envision working to make higher education more accessible and affordable for all students, regardless of their background or financial situation?
Yeah, so in my district, we've been doing college is free. So we did fall is free, spring is free. We've had a lot of money, right? So we've had HERF funds that we could use. We've had COVID relief funds that we could use from the state. Sustaining that is not a possibility. So we need to figure out different ways to move forward. I think that I would love to have where our community college is free. We should be accessible to everybody. It's something that bothers me and has done for the whole time I've been working in the system. So what I would do is work to how do we create grants? How do I help to diversify funding streams? How do I, as president, work with the foundation and folks to create scholarships? How do I engage the community so that they give us money to do what we need to do for our students, right? So that's one of the things. I don't know if I have the whole question.
Yeah, I can read it again. How do you envision working to make higher education more accessible and affordable for all students, regardless of their background or financial situation?
Okay, so a couple things for that. So one of the things is making sure that we're creating spaces on campus that are inclusive, our programming, everything that we do, and where students feel a sense of belonging and that they matter. If they're not going to feel that, then they're not going to stay. We know that. There's literature out there. There's a lot of literature right now on this. But we know from our own experiences that people leave, and this is why people leave, right? So creating spaces is really important for that. The other thing is creating the transfer pipelines, right? Not everybody's going to transfer. Career education, once again, is really important to our communities and workforce. But in addition to that, my role is creating those transfer pathways with you all, creating the relationships with our transfer schools. One of the things I'm working on right now is there's an HBCU transfer project at the State Chancellor's Office. And so I've been working with them on a couple different things, but I'm working on creating a regional hub for Peralta, the whole district, and working on expanding and deepening HBCU awareness and transfer patterns. So we're working with the school districts, so our feeder school districts, OUSD especially, working with our dual enrollment students. So really sort of talking about transfer, but also HBCU transfer early on. And as you know, HBCUs are not just for our Black and African American students, right? So it's expanding awareness, expanding opportunity, and really creating pipelines. So those are a couple things.
Thank you. How do you plan to stay informed about the evolving needs and expectations of students, faculty, classified professionals, administrators, and the broader higher education landscape?
So internal and external. Yeah, okay. I may ask you to repeat it.
Sure.
Sorry, guys. So,
would you like me to repeat it now?
yeah, I got the external because landscape. Give me the first part.
How do you plan to stay informed about the evolving needs and expectations of students, faculty, classified professionals, administrators, and the broader education landscape?
So it kind of goes back to question number 1 a little bit about communication, right? And my stance on communication and communicating to listen and to learn and to engage, right? So creating spaces, whether we're doing town halls, where we're doing listening sessions, I love focus groups with students. I just ran, when I was vice president, I was short a dean, so I just ran our equity process at the college and used human-centered design. I shared this within the first committee. I loved it. And what was awesome about it was that I had 25 folks from across the campus engaged in this process, or classified professionals, mostly faculty, and then some administrators, and a couple students were in there. But throughout the process and throughout the different decision points and engagement points that we went through in that process, every person had to go talk to 5 students. We had the same question, we all 5 students, we brought it back, and that was a way of us getting, on the spot, sort of without formal focus group surveys and so forth, information. So I would love to bring in and expand that type of design and that type of modality within our community colleges. I partnered with West Ed, and it's common in more of the UC system uses it. Some state universities also use it as well, but it's not common in California community colleges. So bringing in that kind of thing, I think, is important as far as capturing voice. Also, the first part again, sorry. I just want to make sure I hit.
Yeah, no problem. How do you plan to stay informed about the evolving needs and expectations?
So one of the things too, I think is, I tend to meet with leadership in different areas. And so from those meetings, I expect to hear from those constituency members. So if I'm meeting with the Academic Senate president, I want to hear what's the pulse on the faculty, what's happening with faculty. If I'm meeting with the union, same, right? If I'm meeting with classified professionals, the same, and especially the student senate. I need to hear what's happening from you. I need to hear what's going on for you, what's working well, what's not working well. We can't address everything, I get that, but it's really important that then I can then bring that back to our team to say, hey, this is what I'm hearing. What do you guys think about this? What can we look into this, and can we work as a team to address it? So there's a lot of presidents that you can go to and you can sort of, write your own check. I'm not that kind of person. I'm really fair. I'm really into opening communication for all, and I want to bring it to a team to make decisions. I will absolutely make decisions myself when I have to, but I will not have, sort of backdoor deals. I'm not that kind of person in the way that I operate as a leader. I think I answered the question.
Great, thank you. We are now moving to questions from the audience. So if you'd like to ask a question, there are microphones on either end of the room. A kind reminder that you please keep your question to 30 seconds and that you ask only one question. And we have 25 minutes overall for audience questions.
How you doing? My name's Art Barbosa. I work for the EOPS program.
I remember you.
Yeah, I know it. I just said that to her. We go way back. And I want to say I'm proud of you, first of all. I have a question. Remember, Chabot College has a lot of history. We have the Puente program. We have the Daraja/Emoja program. We have the Striving Black Brothers, My Sister's Keeper. We have the TRIO programs. How do you talk to people in the state of California about the history of Chabot College and what we started, and making the California aware of this is where it all started? How do you bring us back to the forefront?
So some of that's out there just from not being in the district for a while, right? But I think that, so basically Chabot has been doing DEIAA or DEISJ, whatever we call it, work for many, many, many years, right, with those programs that you're talking about. Puente actually started when I was a student here. I just had no clue that it existed. It would have really helped me. But one of the things I think that as I'm in those leadership circles within the state, and I've served on different state work groups before as a CSSO representative statewide, several actually. And so what my role as Chabot president would be is to bring our voice into that work. And one of the things is, with Umoja starting from here, with Puente starting from here, and the deep history that we have, we then can serve as advocates, and bring you guys and your voices in. It's not just about me, but it's about the program and especially the students, and hearing their voices and bringing them. If there's legislative opportunities, really sort of talking about it there and bringing that, in the rich history and the importance and also the success of the programs. Hands down, you can see the data over the years that there's greater retention, greater success, greater transfer, right? So.
And we'll go here next and then back over here.
Great, thank you. Great that you just mentioned data. So my name is Cynthia Gordon da Cruz, and I'm the faculty coordinator of institutional research. And I'm wondering if you could give us an example of how you have used data or research to inform decision making in one of your past roles or your current role. If you remember, please tell us a little bit about the data and how that influenced the decision that you made.
Sure. Gosh, as associate vice chancellor, I'm in data constantly right now. But I think, I don't know, there's so many different ways. So I'm someone who loves data. So here's what I do though, is what it does for me, because I'm also that therapist person, right? So I'm a numbers person and a therapist person, and always have that going on for me. And so what I always say is what data does and what numbers do is tell us a story. So when I am running, I've done, educational master planning processes. I've run them as a dean twice at 2 different colleges. I'm running one now district-wide, as well with 4 colleges, and then with the board, I'll be doing that coming up soon with their piece. But so using data is really important to inform us in creating goals and sort of moving forward. But the biggest piece for me is around what's the story that's coming out of that data? What are the students telling us? We're typically looking at student data, right? And so what are the students telling us? What's missing in the data? What are we not seeing in the data? So I try to create questions around the data that we're looking at so that then we can have dialogue and discussion. And I also make sure that we do it in a way that's inclusive to bring in everybody, right? So I've been in meetings for years ago where classified professionals were left out, or where nothing was explained in a way, and we're having these conversations without sort of everybody having the same meaning making about the words that we're using and the data that we're looking at. And so for me as a leader, it's been really important over the many years to do that. That's sort of really important to me. So let me see. Okay, so I guess I can use the most recent process that I've been running equity planning processes for years, right? So looking at data on disproportionately impacted students has been something that I've done and do annually, and even each semester. I'm looking to see what's happening. I've looked to see what's happening here. I want to know why African American females are not enrolling at the same rate as other students, right? That's one of your disproportionately impacted areas, for instance. I want to know why our African American and our Latinx students are not retaining or transferring at the same rate as other students, right? So what I can do is say that for the equity planning processes that I've done, we look at the data, we look at and basically the state's telling us what we should be looking at for disproportionately impacted areas. We're looking at access, we're looking at retention, success, we're looking at the SCIF metrics, right? And to see what's happening with those. And then from there, creating goals and creating activities to ideally have impact. So one of the things that's come up for me, and I shared this a little bit in the first interview, was what I've been seeing over time is that we're looking at this disaggregated data, we're looking at these pinpointed sort of data sets, and we're trying to come up with programs, we're doing programs, but we're not scaling, and we're also having very little impact on moving that needle. We still have gaps. We're still not closing the gaps, right? So for me, the decision that we came to, and this was a group decision, but the decision that we came to at the college that I was just at was that we were gonna start looking at intersectional programming. So still have affinity groups, absolutely, we're not gonna get rid of those, that's not what the intention is. But to honor those, but then also look at, I'm a bunch of different things, right? We all are. There's not just one identity that we carry. And so how do we bring in all the identities that we carry into space So a decision was made to, I said this in the interview too, so sorry guys if you were there. But we have a new building at the College of Alameda, which is awesome. It's beautiful because the other buildings are horrible. And the opportunity was so that I could take over space because I couldn't use it for instruction, right? But I could use it for programming and services. So got a team together, and out of the equity data that we use, we really looked at, and that what came out of there was the intersectionality. LGBTQ students weren't, succeeding. I know there's homophobia on campus. I know there's issues around that and belongingness and so forth. How do we create affinity group space, intersectional space, and so forth? So what we did is we created, which is supposed to be opening in the fall. It was supposed to open in spring, but I left, so it's been stalled a little bit. But create a Unity and Justice Center. In that space would be the affinity groups, the care store, and the pantry. Also, the clothes closet would be up there. Our undocumented student success center would be up there. LGBTQ plus would be up there. All of the affinity groups, the learning communities that we have. But in the middle space is intersectional programming space. And so really challenging us as a community, and everybody was up for this, and everybody came to this conclusion together that this is what we needed to do, to try this approach, and to try this so that we can bring in how do all these different sort of areas, where can we support each other, and where can we learn from and grow with each other. So I think that's one of the examples I have. That was a long answer, sorry.
Hello, my name is Sandra Genera. I am the Puente Project Counselor and Coordinator. And at Chabot, we have over 40% Chicanx, Latinx student population, and are grossly underrepresented in the Chicanx, Latinx faculty representation, about 14%, where even in our learning communities, students don't see themselves in teaching English. What is your track record in hiring equity and culturally responsive educators?
So for the most part, so I've been an executive leader for 7 years, I guess. So over the last several years, my hiring has been classified employees primarily and administrators, right? Directors, deans, and so forth. So I've had less impact on actual faculty, which is what I'm hearing you. It's an issue in our district as well. It's an issue in the state, especially in English and math, in some of the areas. So one of the things that we've done is, what I was leading when I was at the college, I guess it started about a year and a half ago or something, but really looking at our language that we use. How do we change the language? What are we doing with our job descriptions? You guys have a fabulous HR that's, an EEO team that's really DEIA focused, but really sort of bringing in language to attract a more diverse population of candidates. Really looking at what are our values? How are we putting that out there? What are we stating that we want, in candidates? What are we stating who are we? When I look at the documents from you guys, when I look at your, master planning process, when I look at your mission critical priorities and you're talking about critical pedagogy and praxis, okay, that's partly why I'm here today, right? So for me, it's about creating, which you have already, but really sort of putting it out there in a more concerted effort. Also, one of the things is marketing with different groups, right? We have Colegas, we have Amen, we have Apahe. I use them in sort of accessing, different, with colleagues that I know across the coalition, if you will, to connect and to really sort of reach out to get a more diverse. So my team has always been, I'm very intentional in my hiring. I want people who want to do the work that we need to do to serve our students. So like I said, I haven't hired faculty because it's usually the president that's hiring, but as dean, I had a lot more input than I have over the last 7 years in faculty specifically. I need to talk faster. You guys have a lot of people.
Good morning. Brian Gu of Director of Research Planning, Institutional Effectiveness. Could you please describe a time where you led organizational or cultural change? What was your process and what did you learn from this?
Okay, this is not a short answer either. So when I got to my most recent college, the committee has heard this too, so sorry. But when I got to my most recent college that I was at, there was issues with really deep strife that had been long-term. And, you know, it's kind of funny. There's colleges that sort of air their laundry everywhere, and there's others that really hide it. This one hid it. And there was issues with African Americans and Asian Americans at the time when I walked into the division that I had, and also pretty rampant homophobia. So I was first of all, I was shocked, and then I was like, okay, so you're it. You need to take charge of this situation. So what I did is dealt with some behaviors and some peoples, right, that we needed to deal with to try and quiet and shut the things down. But then also brought in somebody, a facilitator actually from De Anza, looking at unconscious bias and inclusivity training. So we did it for 3 years. We did it, so basically the work is on a personal level, being aware of yourself. We all have biases, no matter where we come from. I have them still, of course, they're always with me. And being conscious of them is really important. But then coming from there into then your unit and then into the division as a whole. It was such a successful process that we went through that folks from instruction started to come over and wanted to join our meetings because they heard and they saw differences within our community. So it doesn't mean it stopped it. It means that ideally it created a better environment for folks to feel safe and to be at work. And I mentioned this in the interview too. We all have trauma, and I'm going to talk about that in my closing, but the trauma that we experience at work impacts and deters us from serving our students. I can't teach, I can't serve if I'm dealing with trauma in my own workplace, right? So for me, as an executive leader, as president, it's incumbent upon me to really do an assessment of what's happening, to hear from you all what's happening, and then to step into the space with you to change culture if needed.
Hi, I'm Christine Herrera, and I am the Senior Administrative Assistant in the President's Office. As a confidential, supervisors and confidentials are not and do not have union representation. As our leader/president, how will you support and guide the confidentials and supervisors that come to you with issues or concerns, and specifically for those in the President's office?
I see. There's some hidden text there. So as Associate Vice Chancellor, my staff is confidentials actually too. They're non-union employees, and I have 3 of them. We're short one right now. She moved over to another area, but there's 3. And so what I do is, so this would be the case with any of us on campus, right, that are confidentials or in that space. I meet with them regularly. I would meet with you guys regularly, whoever the staff is in the office. But we meet, for right now, I meet every Tuesday morning with them. I hear their concerns. We talk through issues. My stance as a leader is really, I work in Peralta, which is hard as a district, right? But what that means is as a leader, my job is to clear the way so the work can be done. So part of it is use me. I say, copy me. If I need to step into space, I will to support you. I do that with my direct reports as well, and confidentials or non-union employees, but I also do it with classified union employees too. So I'm not sure I have a different stance, to be honest with you. But yeah, so I would meet with you regularly. I would hear your concerns, and we would work through issues together. So it's not okay with me when employees are not okay.
Hi, I'm Robert Yest, a math faculty member, and my question, and it is only one question even though it's long, the math department and the college president here at Chabot have concluded that exclusion of pre-transfer math from the schedule is not a mandate of the text of AB 705/1705. Do you believe the literal text of the legislation of AB 705/1705 mandates the removal of all pre-transfer math courses from the schedule, or if you wish to eliminate, or do you wish to eliminate pre-transfer courses completely from the schedule regardless? Please include in your answer that there are students here at Chabot who are looking for a path forward who, after starting at transfer level math have not been successful even with tutoring and in-class support, yet feel repeating the transfer level course would be frustrating and that they would need to build a more solid foundation found in pre-transfer math. However, if you agree with the math departments and the current Chabot president does not exclude that the legislation does not exclude offering pre-transfer math, please state so.
I did tell you I was visual, right? Okay, so, gosh. So where am I on AB 705 and 1705, right?
Yes.
And what would I do, or how would I work with you all in meeting the students' needs is kind of the gist of your question, sort of. And yeah, kind of. Okay. All right. So in my district, I can say that we have worked to eliminate pre-transfer level classes. But what we've done is, and this I agree with, so I'm not sure how to answer I'm not going to say yes or no, but what I agree with is creating what we have, like for stats, for instance, we have a 13 and a 213. So we have a support class with the actual stats class to make sure that those students who are not necessarily ready can actually receive. So it's not like doing embedded tutoring or instruction, assistants or SLIs, whatever. It's not that, but it's sort of something else instead. The other thing is that we've created non-credit. So I would really support creating non-credit for students who need extra levels of support and or education to then transfer into credit. And I don't just mean this in math. I actually think this is true, and non-credit's a really powerful tool for students, period, especially our bilingual students coming in and wanting to enter higher education, but then not having the skills necessarily, language skills potentially. So creating some ESOL, partnering with our career education can be, and I've done this at Merit with ESOL and our child development program, where we offer the classes in the Fruitvale in the community. And for monolingual students, we then can sort of help them increase their skills. Then they can come on campus to credit, ESOL and then child development. So that sort of is my answer-ish right now. I'd want to talk to you more, to be honest, to know why and what you guys are thinking and how then you think that we can move forward and support the students.
I'd like to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Hello. Are you ready for another run-on question?
Oh, gosh.
So I know you mentioned, my name is Begoña Cirera. I'm a faculty member in nutrition and health. Okay. I've been at Chabot 15 years, 16 years, something like that. So I know you mentioned a lot about your experience in racial and social justice. So this is going to touch a little bit on that, but in a different scenario. So I wanted to ask you, what is your experience building and supporting environmental justice and sustainability at your place of work? That's it. Thank you.
As far as instructional programming?
Anything that you have done in either your post now or previous posts that would support environmental justice and sustainability? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
we're sort of behind the game in that for me, and I think it's an area of growth. And in the spaces that I've been in, I haven't been able to have that much impact. When I was at Merritt College, which was a short stint really as dean, then I was able to sort of work there. There's actually an environmental justice program there, and sustainability program, and we have the HORT program as well. So I was able to, because I had them in my portfolio, I was able to partner with them and really create curricular and even experiences for students, where if it's, if we're looking at how to sort of, how are we engaging our students? How are we supporting them? How are we educating them in order to be, more sustainable? And our campuses actually are really not sustainable either. I don't know if you guys are here, but that's something that also, that I haven't been able to in the spaces that I've worked in to have greater impact. As president with you all, I would love to hear where we are with that and to sort of move forward. It's something I'm concerned about. So I'd like to sort of see, where the community is and moving that.
Good morning. I'm Neva Bandelo. I'm the director of the California Early Childhood Mentor Program housed here at Chabot. And as you may be aware, we have had a mass exodus of early childhood educators, both in colleges and in the workforce. Here at Chabot, we have our ECD faculty, our education program, the mentor program, and our lab school. What do you see as your role in convening and strengthening these three entities in order to increase enrollment and ready students for the workforce?
So I think, I mentioned a little bit about dual enrollment and pathways. I'd like to sort of see what's happening. There's not pathways for that so much, but what are the pathways linked to education, right? And the K-12, and what could we do in dual enrollment or even some non-credit opportunities within the community to increase then enrollment within the programs? We know, early childhood is really critical. It's really critical to our students succeeding later on, right? And if we don't have educators, I have a cousin who's been doing it for like 30 years, who's amazing, and they get paid horribly, and so I can't impact that, but I can impact where we're connecting with community-based organizations, where we're getting ourselves out there in a way, and I can support, sort of that piece of it and creating partnerships.
I recognize that we have a lot more questions than we have time. Sadly, this is our last question of the day before we then turn it back over to you for closing remarks.
All right, thank you. Good morning. My name is Bobby Nakamoto. I'm Dean of Social Sciences. And so I have more of an introspective question. Sure. So in what ways have you or could you perpetuate systems of oppression in your administrative leadership practice? And how have you done, or what have you done actively to stop this from happening?
So can I ask you to repeat that? Because I think I heard you say, how have I perpetuated?
Yeah,
but I think
so
that's...
You want me to read the whole question again?
Yeah.
Okay. In what ways have you, or could you, perpetuate systems of oppression in your administrative leadership practice? And how have you done, or what have you actively done to stop this from happening?
Okay, so we're in a hierarchy. We're in a class system here, right? And I mentioned that in our first interview. So one of the ways that oppression occurs is through the power structures that we work in within the academy. I'm very conscious of that. I'm very clear of that. It's easy, yes, to come in and say, okay, we're doing X, Y, Z. Sure, I tried that when I was a dean and it horribly failed, right? So I learned, 15 years ago? Never to do that again. So I use participatory governance. I said this earlier too, sorry guys, but I use task forces, I use work groups a lot to make sure that that's not happening. I make sure that all voices are in the space. I make sure that classified professionals especially are in the space. You guys are our front line to our students, right? And you hear more oftentimes than our faculty have time to hear from our students. And so we need to hear from you. But also, obviously, faculty, bringing faculty in, bringing administrators in, and especially students whenever we can, right? And so how do we, for me, participatory governance is the great equalizer. It's that space where all voices can be heard if the leaders in that space allow it and invite it, right? So one of the things that I've done around this is really to, and I said this earlier, sorry, but one of the things that I've done is to really engage with the communities. So I've led participatory governance, I've co-led, I've tri-led, different across the district and also at the college level in 4 different colleges and also at the district. So one of the things that I do is make sure that everybody understands the charge of the committee or the work group or the task force, whatever it is that we're doing. So you understand if there's questions, I want to hear what they are. If you don't understand, I want to help you, right? So that then we're all coming in with equal footing, including our students, into that space. And then for me, as a leader, I've also taken it upon myself. When I'm not hearing from voices consistently, for instance, I will reach out to that person outside and say, hey, what's going on for you? Are you okay? Can I help you? I really want to hear from you, right? And you're bringing in your voice and even sort of talk to them about why their voice specifically is important. So it's easy to perpetuate because we're in a system that actually does automatically, right? And so I've created different ways to engage, I think, to help that. I'm not going to get it right all the time. So I want to hear from you if I don't get it right, actually, right? If I miss a step, if I, whatever, I want to hear, because I'm here, I've grown so much since I was here at Chabot 25 years ago, or actually I guess 23 years ago. But I'm still growing. As leaders, we need to keep growing. We can't stop. And as educators, it's really important that we're here to learn. I see us as a learner college, a learner institution, if you will, where we're all here to engage and grow. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks to all of the audience members who asked their questions. Apologies to those who were not able to ask their questions.
You can meet me outside. No, I'm kidding.
Before we conclude today's forum, we invite you to provide a brief closing statement. There are 5 minutes allotted for this closing statement.
Okay, so first I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for being here this morning, like I said earlier. And I just want to acknowledge how difficult the past 3 years have been with the pandemic, both personal and community loss that we've had. We've had losses within our colleges, within our families, and just the struggles due to the pandemic, different strife. The murder of George Floyd, the violence against the Asian American or Asian community, anti-immigrant sentiments, and there's many others, but there's all traumas and all things that we've been through in the last 3 years. Sure, most of this has been going on forever except for the pandemic, but because of social media, we're more aware. We can't ignore it, and we need to step up to sort of engage it. That makes it really hard, creates traumas for our entire community. So throughout the period, though, even though we've pulled together in ways that we never would have thought that we would pull together, we were nimbler than we ever thought we could. We moved our entire college online. We moved our entire college back, right? We wouldn't have been able to do this if we didn't pull together, if we didn't create community, if we didn't engage with each other to move this forward. And at the core of it is really meeting our students and meeting our students' needs. So I'm aware that Chabot has had only 2 presidents in more than 2 decades, which is, from my district, fabulous and amazing and fabulous. I also know that coming out of the pandemic, coming out of all the traumas, that this change is really hard on the community and that it brings up a lot of things. So, every change, every loss brings up all your other losses. So I'm aware of that coming into this space, and I want to acknowledge that. I've said that to be a successful leader, one has to have an high EQ, high emotional intelligence. My training as a therapist has been something that I carry with me daily. I cannot imagine being an administrator without it. I cannot imagine, being someone who didn't have that humanistic training and humanistic perspective and stance to not come into then the space as a leader in an education setting. So I carry that with me. As your next president, I'll honor the long-standing commitment to and the work that Art brought up on social racial justice and the commitment to DEIAA or DEISJ, depending on what you're calling it. I'll lead with integrity, with honesty, with transparency, and with inclusion, and with humor, as you've seen today. Our jobs are really hard. It's really important to me that we engage, that we laugh, that we join, and create community. I will also lead in supporting innovation and our commitment to continuing this work together. To return to Chabot and serve as your next president, where I experienced many firsts. My son was actually born, he's 23, he's almost 24 this year. He was born while I was part-time faculty here at Chabot. I was a student here. My first job in community colleges was here. So to return here to become a president with you all in a community that's had such a deep impact on me personally, my family, my extended family, and our community would be an absolute honor and privilege. And I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Vasconcellos, for your interest in Chabot College's president position and for spending your time with us this morning. I want to just remind the audience that the feedback form will be available until Sunday, May 21st at 11:59 p.m. You'll receive an email with that information by tomorrow at the latest. Please join me again in thanking Dr. Vasconcellos.